Princess Valari stepped off the royal shuttle and felt the cold air of Galactic Station Orinth fill her lungs. The station was massive, a floating city of metal and glass that hung in the darkness between stars. Thousands of species walked its corridors, traded in its markets, and whispered secrets in its shadows. For the next 10 days, this place would be her home. She was here for peace. The Torani Empire had been at war with the Drenathi Collective for 15 years. Millions had died. Worlds had burned. Now, finally, both sides were tired enough to talk. Valari's father, Emperor Torath, had sent her to represent their people. Her 4 elite guards surrounded her as she walked. They were Torani like her, each one standing 7 feet tall with 4 powerful arms and scales that shone like polished bronze. Their eyes scanned every corner, every face, every shadow. They had protected her since childhood. She trusted them with her life. A human official greeted her at the end of the docking corridor. He was short, barely reaching her shoulder, with pale skin and nervous eyes. He bowed deeply. "Your Highness, welcome to Station Orinth. I am Director Payek. Everything has been prepared for your arrival." Valari nodded. She had dealt with humans before. They were a young species, only recently accepted into galactic society. They had no great military, no powerful technology, no ancient history. Most species considered them unremarkable. Some considered them weak. "There is one matter we must discuss," Director Payek said carefully. "As part of the Human Torani Protection Accord, signed by your father, you are required to accept a human bodyguard during your stay." Valari stopped walking. Her guards tensed. "Excuse me? It is a formality, Your Highness, a symbol of cooperation between our species. The accord requires that high-ranking Torani officials accept human protection services when visiting neutral stations." Valari felt anger rise in her chest. She was a princess of the most powerful empire in 3 sectors. Her guards had killed hundreds of enemies, and now she was expected to accept protection from a human? "This is insulting," she said. "I understand, Your Highness, but the accord is clear. Without compliance, the peace negotiations cannot proceed." Valari closed her eyes. She thought of her father, of the millions who had died, of the chance to finally end the bloodshed. She could endure a small insult for peace. "Fine," she said. "Bring me this human." Director Payek spoke into his communicator. A moment later, a man emerged from a side corridor. Valari studied him. He was average height for a human, which meant he barely reached her chest. His hair was black and cut short. His face was calm, almost blank. He wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations, no medals, no symbols of rank. He carried no visible weapons. He bowed. "Your Highness, my name is Teho. I am honored to serve as your escort." His voice was soft, quiet, almost gentle. Valari felt her anger turn to disbelief. This was her protector? This small, soft, weaponless man? Her guards could break him with one hand. A child of her species could defeat him in combat. "You are my bodyguard?" she asked. "Yes, Your Highness." "Where are your weapons?" "I carry none." "Where is your armor?" "I wear none." Valari turned to Director Payek. "Is this a joke?" The director shifted uncomfortably. "Teho is one of our finest protection specialists, Your Highness. His record is exemplary. His record means nothing if he cannot fight." Teho said nothing. He simply stood there, hands clasped behind his back, eyes forward. He did not argue. He did not defend himself. He did not seem offended. This irritated Valari more than anything. "Very well," she said. "You may follow. Stay out of my way." She turned and walked toward her quarters. Her guards fell into formation around her. Teho followed, 3 steps behind, silent as a shadow. The royal suite was luxurious by station standards. Multiple rooms, soft lighting, a view of the stars. Valari's handmaiden was already there, arranging her belongings. The handmaiden was human too, a young woman named Yuna, who had served as a cultural liaison for 2 years. "Your Highness," Yuna said, bowing. "I hope your journey was pleasant." It was adequate. Valari removed her ceremonial cloak and handed it to Yuna. "I have been assigned a human bodyguard. He is useless, but I am required to accept him." Yuna glanced toward the door, where Teho had taken position. Her expression changed slightly, a flicker of something Valari could not read. "Teho," Yuna said softly. "I have heard of him." "You know him?" "Only by reputation. He is respected among humans." Valari laughed. "Respected for what?" "He has no weapons, no armor, no size. My youngest guard could defeat him in seconds." Yuna hesitated. "Humans are not always what they appear, Your Highness. They appear weak." And he confirms it. Yuna lowered her eyes. "As you say, Your Highness." That night, Valari could not sleep. She stood at the window and watched the stars. The weight of her mission pressed down on her. So many lives depended on these negotiations. So many futures hung in the balance. She heard a soft sound and turned. Through the crack in her door, she could see Teho. He stood in the corridor, exactly where he had been 6 hours ago. He had not moved. He had not sat. He had not eaten. He simply stood, watching the shadows. His eyes moved constantly, tracking every flicker of light, every distant sound. His body was still. But there was something about him, something Valari could not name. He reminded her of the hunting cats on her homeworld, the ones that could sit motionless for hours before striking with deadly speed. She shook her head. She was being foolish. He was just a human. Soft skin, weak bones, short lifespan. There was nothing dangerous about him. She returned to bed and forced herself to sleep. In the corridor, Teho remained at his post. His eyes never closed. His attention never wavered. He had noticed the princess watching him. He had noticed many things since arriving. The ventilation system had 3 access points near the royal suite. The security cameras had a 4-second gap in coverage near the east stairwell. 2 of the cleaning staff had moved with unusual precision, their eyes lingering too long on the princess. Teho filed these observations away. He did not share them. He did not need to. Words meant nothing. Actions were everything. He had learned this lesson long ago. On a world of fire and blood, in a childhood that had forged him into something the galaxy did not understand. The princess thought he was helpless. Many had thought the same. They had all been wrong. 2 days passed on Station Orinth. The peace negotiations moved slowly, as such things always did. Diplomats argued over words. Lawyers debated ancient treaties. Representatives of a dozen species watched and waited, hoping for peace but preparing for war. Princess Valari attended every session. She sat in the Great Hall and listened to hours of discussion. She met with delegates from both sides. She smiled when she wanted to scream and spoke kindly when she wanted to rage. This was diplomacy. This was her duty. Through it all, Teho followed her. He was always there, 3 steps behind, silent and still. He ate when she ate, though his portions were small. He slept when she slept, though Yuna told her he only rested for 4 hours each night. He never complained. He never spoke unless spoken to. Valari found herself watching him, searching for some sign of strength, some hidden quality that justified his position. She found nothing. During a diplomatic dinner on the 3rd evening, her suspicions seemed confirmed. The dinner was held in the Grand Hall, a vast chamber decorated with crystals that glowed like captured stars. Representatives from 30 species filled the room. Valari sat at the high table, her guards positioned behind her. Teho stood further back, near the wall, almost invisible. Ambassador Dreth of the Velkhori Syndicate approached her table. The Velkhori were a reptilian species known for their cruelty and their criminal enterprises. They opposed the peace treaty because war meant profit. Dreth was their voice at the negotiations, a cold-eyed creature with scales like dried blood. "Princess Valari," Dreth said, his voice like scraping stones. "I see you have acquired a pet." He gestured toward Teho. Valari felt her jaw tighten. "He is my escort." "A requirement of the human Torani Accord." "Ah, yes. The humans." Dreth's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. "Such a fragile species. I have always wondered why the galaxy tolerates them." He turned and walked toward Teho. Valari's guards shifted, uncertain. This was not normal diplomatic behavior. Dreth stopped in front of Teho and looked down at him. The Velkhori was nearly as tall as a Torani, and Teho barely reached his chest. "Human," Dreth said loudly, making sure others could hear. "I have heard your species bleeds red. Is this true?" Teho met his eyes calmly. "Yes. And your bones break easily? Compared to some species, yes. And you feel pain?" "Real pain?" "Yes." Dreth leaned closer. "Then why are you here, little creature? Do you think you can protect a princess of the Torani? You cannot even protect yourself." Though, the hall had grown quiet. Dozens of eyes watched the confrontation. Valari felt embarrassment burn in her chest. This human was making her look weak by association. Teho did not move. His expression did not change. When he spoke, his voice was the same soft tone as always. "I am here because I was assigned, Ambassador. Nothing more." Dreth laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. "At least you know your place." "Ah." He turned and walked away. The hall slowly returned to its normal noise. But Valari had seen the looks from other delegates. Pity. Amusement. Contempt. After dinner, she confronted Teho in the corridor outside her quarters. "Why did you not defend yourself?" Teho looked at her calmly. "From his insults, his mockery. He called you weak in front of everyone. Words are not attacks, Your Highness. They require no defense. They made me look foolish. They made my people look foolish for accepting human protection." Teho was quiet for a moment. "I apologize if my presence has caused you difficulty. But my job is not to win arguments. My job is to keep you alive." Valari stared at him. There was something in his eyes, something deep and still, like water that hid great depth. But she pushed the thought away. "You cannot keep anyone alive. You have no weapons, no strength. You are nothing." Teho nodded slightly. "As you say, Your Highness." He returned to his position by the door. Valari stormed into her quarters. Yuna was inside, preparing the room for night. She had heard everything. "Your Highness," she said carefully. "May I speak freely?" "What is it?" "Ambassador Dreth is dangerous. The Velkhori Syndicate has killed many who oppose them. They have assassins, spies, and poison masters throughout the galaxy. I am aware of the Velkhori's reputation. Then perhaps you should also be aware of humanity's reputation, among those who know us." Valari turned to face her. "And what reputation is that?" Yuna chose her words with care. "Humans are young in the galaxy. We have no great ships, no ancient wisdom, no powerful bodies. But we survived on a world that tried to kill us every day. Earthquakes, floods, predators, disease, ice ages, and volcanic winters. We should have died 1,000 times. We did not. Survival is not strength. No, Your Highness. Survival is something else. Something harder to see." Yuna paused. Teho did not respond to Dreth's insults because he did not need to. A hunting beast does not bark at prey. It simply waits. Valari felt a chill she did not understand. "You speak as if he is dangerous. I speak as someone who knows what humans can become when we must." Later that night, Valari woke from troubled sleep. She walked to her door and looked through the crack. Tejo stood in the same position as always, 6 hours without moving. His eyes tracked the shadows of the corridor with mechanical precision. A maintenance worker passed by, and Tejo's gaze followed him until he disappeared. A security guard walked past, and Tejo noted the exact position of his weapon. Valari watched for nearly an hour. In all that time, Tejo did not sit, did not lean, did not show any sign of fatigue. His stillness was not weakness. She realized. It was control. Perfect, absolute control. She thought of Yuna's words. A hunting beast does not bark at prey. For the first time, she wondered what would happen if this quiet man was ever forced to strike. She returned to bed, but sleep did not come easily. In the corridor, Tejo continued his vigil. He had heard the princess watching him. He had heard her return to bed. He heard her breathing, eventually slow, as sleep claimed her. 3 floors below, in a maintenance tunnel, 2 figures spoke in whispers. They did not know that Tejo had tracked their movements for 2 days. They did not know that he had already identified them as threats. They did not know that their time was running out. The 5th day of negotiations brought tension that hung in the air like smoke before a fire. The Torani and Dranathi delegations had reached a critical point. Borders were being redrawn. Reparations were being calculated. For the first time in 15 years, peace seemed possible. This made certain parties very unhappy. Princess Valari met with Commander Dorath, her intelligence officer, in a secure room deep within the Torani section of the station. Dorath was old for a Torani. His scales faded to pale gold, but his mind remained sharp as a blade. "Your Highness," he said, his voice low. "I have concerning news. Speak. Our sources report increased communication between Valkyrie agents on this station. Encrypted transmissions. Secret meetings. Large transfers of credits to unknown accounts." Valari felt ice in her stomach. The Valkyrie opposed the peace treaty. This is not new. No. But the nature of the communications has changed. They speak of an event. A disruption. Something planned for the next 5 days. An assassination attempt? Dorath's 4 hands clasped together. "We cannot confirm. But, Your Highness, the Valkyrie have killed 3 planetary leaders in the past decade. Each time, there were similar patterns before the attacks." Valari stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. "What do you recommend? Return to your ship. Leave the negotiations to subordinates. Your life is too valuable to risk. If I leave, the treaty fails. The Dranathi will see it as weakness. War will continue. In the raid. Quote, "Better war than your death." Valari turned to face him. "No. I will not run. Double the security. Scan every room I enter. Check every person who comes near me. But I will not hide." Dorath bowed his head. "As you command, Your Highness." After he left, Valari sat alone in the silence. Fear was a familiar enemy. She had faced it many times during the war, but this was different. An assassin could be anywhere, anyone. The next face she saw might be the one that killed her. A soft knock at the door made her jump. "Enter." Tejo stepped inside. He moved quietly, almost silently. Despite the hard floor, he bowed. "Your Highness, your next appointment is in 20 minutes. I know." She studied him. "You heard everything, didn't you? You were outside the door." "Yes, Your Highness. And what do you think? Should I run?" Tejo was quiet for a moment. "That is not my decision to make. I am asking for your opinion." He met her eyes. "Running would not save you, Your Highness. The Valkyrie have long reach. If they want you dead, leaving the station only changes the location. Then you agree I should stay?" "I agree that staying gives you a chance to achieve something meaningful. Running gives you nothing but more fear." Valari felt surprise. It was the most he had ever said to her. and his words carried weight she had not expected. "You are not what I thought you were," she said slowly. "Few things are, Your Highness." Over the next 3 days, Valari refused to change her routine. She attended every negotiation session. She walked the public corridors. She met with delegates from both sides, including species she did not trust. She showed no fear, but she watched Tejo more carefully now. She noticed how he positioned himself. Always between her and windows. Always with clear sightlines to exits. When they walked through crowds, he somehow guided her path without ever touching her. Subtle movements that steered her away from certain people and places. She noticed his eyes. They never stopped moving. They tracked every face, every hand, every shadow. When someone approached her, Tejo's attention locked onto them with frightening intensity. She noticed small things that she had missed before. How his weight was always balanced, ready to move in any direction. How his hands hung loose at his sides, fingers slightly curved. How his breathing was slow and controlled, like a hunter waiting for prey. One evening, after a particularly long session, she asked him a question. "How many assassination attempts have you stopped?" Tejo walked beside her in the corridor, slightly behind and to the left. "More than 10? Yes. More than 50? He was quiet for a moment. "Yes." Valari felt something shift in her understanding. "And you stopped them without weapons?" "Weapons can be taken. Skills cannot." They walked in silence for a while. Then Valari asked, "What happened to the assassins you stopped?" Tejo did not answer immediately. When he spoke, his voice was soft as always, but there was something beneath it. Something cold. They stopped being threats. That night, one of Valari's Torani guards did not report for duty. Commander Dorath found him 2 hours later, dead in his quarters. The poison had worked quickly and left no trace. Only a detailed autopsy revealed the truth. Dorath brought the news to Valari personally. His face was grim. Korath was killed by a compound designed specifically for Torani biology. It bypassed all his natural defenses. He would have felt nothing before he died. Valari's remaining 3 guards stood rigid with fury and grief. "They are inside," Valari said quietly. "The assassins are already on this station. Already close." "Yes, Your Highness. I recommend immediate evacuation." "No." Her voice was steel. "Find them. Hunt them. But I will not run." After Dorath left, Valari found herself alone with Tejo. The human stood by the door, watching her with those calm, deep eyes. "You think I am foolish," she said, "staying here when death hunts me." "No, Your Highness. I think you are brave. Bravery is often foolishness with better lighting." "Perhaps." Tejo stepped closer, the first time he had approached her without being summoned. "Your Highness, I need to tell you something." Valari tensed. "What is it?" "I have identified 3 probable threats among the station personnel, 2 maintenance workers and 1 security officer. Their movements are wrong. Their attention patterns are unusual. Why have you not reported this?" "I have, to my superiors. But station security is slow to act. Politics, protocols, procedures." His eyes met hers. "So I am telling you directly. Tomorrow's assembly session is dangerous. The layout of the hall, the security gaps, the timing. If I were planning an attack, that would be my choice." Valari felt fear wrap around her heart. "And what do you recommend?" "Stay close to me. Whatever happens, stay close." She looked at this small, quiet man. This weaponless human, who had been mocked and dismissed by everyone, including her. "Can you protect me?" she asked. Truly? Tejo's expression did not change. But something in his eyes shifted. Something dark and certain. "Yes, Your Highness, I can." For the first time, Valari believed him. The morning of the 8th day began like any other. Valari woke early, dressed in her formal robes, and prepared for the assembly session. Her 3 remaining guards checked every corner of her quarters. Commander Dorith had doubled station security. Armed officers stood at every intersection. But Valari's eyes kept returning to Tejo. He stood by the door, same as always. Gray uniform. No weapons. Calm face. But there was something different about him today. His stillness had changed. It was no longer the stillness of waiting. It was the stillness of readiness. "You expect trouble today," she said. "Yes, Your Highness." "How certain are you?" "Very." Valari touched the ceremonial blade at her hip. It was more symbol than weapon, but she had trained with it since childhood. If she had to fight, she would fight. "What should I do if something happens?" Tejo turned to face her fully. "Stay low. Move toward the nearest exit. Do not stop for anyone or anything." He paused. "Except me. If I tell you to move, move. If I tell you to stop, stop. Can you do this?" "Yes. Whatever you see, do not freeze. Fear is natural. Hesitation is death." Valari nodded. Her hearts were beating hard, but her voice remained steady. "I understand." They walked to the assembly hall together. Her 3 Torani guards surrounded her in a tight formation. Tejo followed behind, silent and unnoticed. Other delegates filled the corridor, moving toward the same destination. Valari saw Ambassador Dreth among them. He smiled at her with cold eyes. The assembly hall was vast, a great dome of glass and steel that showed the stars above. Hundreds of seats rose in circles around a central platform where speakers addressed the crowd. Valari took her position in the Torani section, near the front. Her guards stood behind her. Tejo moved to the side, finding a position against the wall. The session began. The Dranathi chief negotiator spoke about peace and prosperity. The Torani ambassador responded with words of hope. Other species added their voices to the discussion. It was historic. It was important. Valari barely heard any of it. Her eyes scanned the room. The security officers at the doors, the delegates in their seats, the technicians managing the lights and sound. Any of them could be an enemy. Any of them could be carrying death. 1 hour passed. Then 2. The session continued without incident. Valari began to wonder if Tejo had been wrong. Then the lights went out. Complete darkness fell over the hall. Screams erupted from every direction. Bodies crashed against each other as delegates panicked and fled. Valari felt her guards close around her. Their 4 arms locked together, forming a wall of scale and muscle. Someone was shouting orders. Someone else was crying. Then she heard the first weapon fire. Energy bolts lit up the darkness like lightning. She saw figures moving. Shadows against shadows. They were fast. Faster than any species she knew. They carried glowing blades that hummed with deadly light. One of her guards roared and charged toward a shadow. There was a flash of light, and he fell. Blood sprayed across her face, hot and wet. Another guard raised his weapon. Before he could fire, something hit him from behind. He collapsed, without a sound. The 3rd guard grabbed Valari and pushed her down. "Stay behind me, Your Highness." He lasted 3 seconds. A blade of green light punched through his chest. He looked down at it with surprise, then fell. Valari was alone. She drew her ceremonial blade and crouched in the darkness. Her hearts pounded. Her breath came fast. She could see shapes moving toward her. 1, 2, 3. More. 12 figures surrounded her in a tightening circle. Their faces were hidden behind masks. Their blades glowed with hungry light. They moved in perfect coordination, like a single creature with many bodies. This was the end, she realized. She would die here, in the dark, murdered by shadows. The peace would die with her. The war would continue forever. She raised her blade. If she was going to die, she would die fighting. Then she heard a sound. It was soft, almost gentle, like fabric tearing, like a whisper of wind. One of the assassins stumbled. His blade fell from his hand. He collapsed to the floor and did not move. Another assassin turned toward the sound. Something moved in the darkness behind him. He made a choking noise and dropped. 2 down. The remaining assassins spun toward the new threat. Their blades slashed at empty air. They shouted to each other, in a language Valari did not know. A third assassin screamed as his arm bent in a direction it was not meant to go. He fell, writhing. A fourth assassin lunged at the shadows. Something caught his blade between 2 hands, twisted, and his wrist snapped like a dry branch. He dropped, 4 down. Valari's eyes were adjusting to the darkness now. She could see movement, a shape that flowed like water through the assassins. It did not fight like any species she had ever seen. It did not overpower. It redirected. It used the assassin's own force against them. A fifth assassin fired a neural disruptor. The shape was already gone. The bolt hit another assassin, who dropped instantly. 5, 6. The remaining assassins tried to regroup. They formed a circle. Backs together, blades outward. They were professional. They were trained. They had killed many targets before. It did not matter. The shape struck from 3 directions in less than a second. Throat, temple, spine, precise, clinical, absolute. 7, 8, 9. 3 assassins remained. They broke formation and ran toward Valari, desperate to complete their mission before they died. The first one reached her. She raised her blade, but she knew she was too slow. A hand appeared from nowhere and caught the assassin's wrist. The assassin's momentum carried him forward, and the hand guided him into the second assassin's blade. Both fell. 10, 11. The last assassin threw himself at Valari with a scream of rage. She slashed with her blade and felt it connect. The assassin stumbled, wounded, but not stopped. Then Tejo was there. He moved between Valari and the assassin like a ghost. The assassin's blade swept toward him. Tejo shifted his weight, and the blade passed through empty air. His hand struck 3 times, faster than Valari's eyes could follow. The assassin froze. His blade fell from his fingers. He collapsed to his knees. "Please," he gasped. "Please, I surrender." Tejo stood over him. His breathing was calm. His face was expressionless. Blood dripped from a wound on his arm, where a blade had caught him. The assassin's hand moved, reaching for something hidden in his sleeve. Tejo's foot connected with the assassin's head. The crack echoed through the hall. 12. The lights came back on. Valari looked around at the carnage. 12 bodies lay scattered across the floor. Her 3 guards were dead. Other delegates were injured, crying, crawling toward the exits. And in the center of it all stood Tejo. His gray uniform was torn and stained with blood. Some his, some not. His arm hung at his side, wounded but functional. His face showed nothing. No triumph, no fear, no emotion at all. He turned to face her. "Are you injured, Your Highness?" Valari stared at him. This small, quiet, weaponless man. This human she had mocked and dismissed. This person who had just killed 12 assassins in the dark. Her voice came out as a whisper. "No, I am not injured." Tejo nodded. "Good. 1. Then he collapsed. The medical bay of Station Orinth was chaos. Doctors and nurses rushed between beds, treating the injured from the attack. Diplomats lay beside guards. Ambassadors beside servants. Death had not cared about rank or species. Princess Valari refused all treatment. She had only minor cuts and bruises. Others needed help more than she did. She stood outside the surgical room where Tejo lay. The human doctors had taken him immediately, their faces grim. A blade had cut deep into his arm, damaging muscle and nerve. He had lost blood. Too much blood. Commander Dorath found her there. His old face was heavy with grief and guilt. "Your Highness," I have failed you. Korath, Veran, Telos. They are all dead. Your guards, your protectors, gone. Valari did not look at him. Her eyes stayed fixed on the surgical room door. They died with honor. They will be remembered. 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 The assassins were Velkori operatives. We found their communications. Ambassador Dreth ordered the attack personally. He has been arrested. Good. Doreth hesitated. Your Highness. The station security recorded the attack. Emergency cameras in the assembly hall. I have reviewed the footage. Now Valari turned to face him. And? The attack lasted 12 seconds. From the moment the lights went out until the last assassin fell. 12 seconds. Valari felt the number settle into her mind. 12 seconds. 12 assassins. Her guards, warriors of legendary skill, had fallen in moments. But Teho had destroyed every threat before she could draw more than 3 breaths. How is that possible? She asked. He is human. They are one of the weakest species in the galaxy. Doreth was quiet for a long moment. I spoke with the human doctors. They explained some things. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Humans are not weak. Your Highness, they are different. Explain. Their bodies are built for something called endurance. They can maintain activity for hours, while other species tire. Their muscles heal from damage stronger than before. Their brains process threat information with unusual speed. This does not explain what I saw. No. Doreth lowered his voice. But there is more. Humans evolved on a world they call Earth. It is what galactic scientists classify as a Category 12 death world. Valari felt a chill. Death world classifications ranged from 1 to 15. Category 12 was nearly unsurvivable. Most intelligent species came from Category 3 or 4 worlds. Every dangerous thing in the galaxy exists on Earth. Doreth continued. Predators that hunt in packs. Poisons in the air and water. Diseases that kill millions. Natural disasters that reshape continents. Extreme temperatures that swing between deadly heat and killing cold. And humans survived this? They did more than survive. They conquered it. They climbed to the top of their food chain not through strength or speed or venom, but through something else. Adaptation, intelligence, and an absolute refusal to die. The surgical room door opened. A human doctor emerged, her face tired but relieved. He will live, she said. The arm will need time to heal, but there should be no permanent damage. He is awake and asking to see the princess. Valari entered the room. Teho lay on the bed, his arm wrapped in white bandages. Medical machines beeped softly around him. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear and calm, as always. Your Highness, he said, trying to rise. Do not move. Valari's voice was sharp. You are injured. I am functional. You nearly died. I did not die. You did not die. The mission was successful. Valari stood beside his bed and looked down at him. This man, who weighed half what she did. This man whose bones she could break with one hand. This man who had killed 12 professional assassins in 12 seconds. I owe you my life, she said. You owe me nothing, Your Highness. I was doing my duty. No, this was more than duty. She sat in the chair beside his bed. I watched the recording. I saw what you did. How is such a thing possible? Teho was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft, almost distant. When I was 7 years old, I was selected for a program. The humans call it the Guardian Initiative. Children with certain qualities are identified and trained from youth to become protectors. What qualities? Speed of thought. Ability to remain calm under pressure. Physical coordination. And something harder to define. A willingness to put others before yourself. They train children to kill. They train children to protect. Killing is sometimes necessary for protection. Teho's eyes met hers. I was trained for 15 years. Combat in every form. Threat assessment. Psychology. Anatomy of every major species in the galaxy. By the time I was 22, I could identify 12 different ways to disable a Torani warrior without weapons. Valari felt her scales tighten. And you never told anyone this? What purpose would it serve? Words prove nothing. She remembered his response to Ambassador Dreth's mockery, his calm acceptance of her own dismissal and contempt. He had endured everything without complaint because he knew the truth. He knew what he was. He did not need others to validate it. I called you weak, she said quietly. I called you useless. I said my youngest guard could defeat you. You judged what you saw. It was reasonable. It was foolish. I looked at your size and your softness, and I thought I understood. I understood nothing. Teho shifted on the bed. Your Highness, may I speak freely? Yes. The galaxy makes the same mistake with all humans. They see our small size, our lack of claws and scales, our short lives, and they assume we are prey. They do not understand what we are. And what are you? We are survivors. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We learned to hunt creatures 10 times our size. We learned to work together, to communicate, to plan. We turned our weakness into strength. His eyes held hers. We are not prey, Your Highness. We are the most successful predators our world ever produced. Valari sat in silence, processing his words. She thought of the attack, the speed, the precision, the absolute efficiency of his violence. 12 seconds, she said finally. You killed 12 trained assassins in 12 seconds. I have never seen anything like it. You were never meant to see it. A Guardian's greatest weapon is being underestimated. If no one knows what we can do, no one prepares for it. And now I know. Now you know. Teho's expression softened slightly. I hope you will keep this knowledge to yourself, Your Highness. Other humans serve in similar positions across the galaxy. Their safety depends on the galaxy's ignorance. Valari nodded slowly. I will tell no one. You have my word. Thank you. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. Teho, why did you become a Guardian? You could have done anything with your abilities. He was quiet for a long moment. Because protecting others gives my life meaning. Because the strong should serve the vulnerable, not exploit them. Because every life saved is a victory against the darkness. He closed his eyes. Because that is what humans do. We protect, we endure, we survive, and we make sure others survive with us. Valari left the medical bay with new thoughts filling her mind. She had grown up believing humans were one of the lesser species, weak, fragile, unremarkable. She had been wrong. They were not weak. They were hiding. They were not fragile. They were patient. They were not unremarkable. They were extraordinary, and the galaxy had no idea. 3 days after the attack, the peace treaty was signed. Princess Valari stood in the Great Hall, where she had nearly died, and watched representatives of both sides mark the document. 15 years of war ended with ink on paper. Millions of deaths, countless destroyed worlds, generations of hatred. All concluded in a ceremony that lasted less than an hour. The galaxy celebrated. News networks broadcast images of the signing across 1,000 systems. Leaders gave speeches about hope and renewal. People wept with joy in the streets of planets that had known only fear. But Valari's thoughts were elsewhere. She found Yuna in her quarters, packing her belongings. The human handmaiden looked up as Valari entered. Your Highness. The ceremony was beautiful. It was adequate. Valari sat down heavily. Yuna, I need to speak with you. About humans. Yuna set down the clothing she was folding. Her expression became careful. What would you like to know? Everything. I need to understand what I saw. Then. 5-1. Then. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she sat across from Valari and began to speak. Humans evolved on Earth approximately 2 million years ago. We were not the fastest creatures, not the strongest, not the most poisonous, or armored, or adapted. We were soft, and slow, and small. Yet you survived. We did. Because we had something other species lacked. We could think in ways they could not. We could plan. We could imagine futures that did not yet exist and work to create them. We could cooperate with strangers, share knowledge across generations, and learn from our mistakes. Valari listened intently. This was not what she had learned about humans in her education. Our bodies adapted to serve our minds, Yuna continued. We developed sweat glands that allowed us to run for hours without overheating. Other predators could sprint faster, but we could chase them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We developed hands that could grip and throw with precision. We developed eyes that could see patterns and details other species missed. Persistence predators, Valari said softly. She had heard the term before but never understood it. Yes. We do not win fights quickly. We win them over time. We endure pain that would stop other species. We recover from injuries that would kill others. We keep going when every rational calculation says we should stop. Yuna leaned forward. This is what the galaxy does not understand. Humans are not dangerous because of what we can do in a moment. We are dangerous because of what we can do over time. We do not give up. We do not stop. We do not accept defeat. Valari thought of Tejo standing guard for 6 hours without moving, sleeping 4 hours a night, tracking threats that no one else noticed. Patient, relentless, eternal. Tejo is what you call a guardian? She said. Tell me about them. Yuna's expression shifted. Pride mixed with something else. Something like sadness. The Guardian Initiative began 200 years ago, when humans first entered galactic society. We were mocked and dismissed, just as you did when you first met Tejo. Other species saw us as weak. Easy targets. What changed? Nothing changed. We simply showed them what we could be. Yuna paused. The first Guardian was a woman named Minji. She protected an ambassador during a terrorist attack on a space station. 17 armed attackers. She had no weapons. She killed them all. Valari felt her scales tighten. How? Christ. Humans have a response we call the survival state. When we face mortal danger, our bodies change. Time seems to slow. Pain disappears. Fear becomes fuel. We become something else. Something that will not stop until the threat is gone or we are dead. All humans can do this? To some degree, yes. But guardians are selected and trained to access this state at will. They spend years learning to control it, to channel it, to use it with precision instead of rage. Yuna met Valari's eyes. What you saw in the assembly hall was not a human fighting. It was a guardian in full activation. There is nothing else like it in the galaxy. Valari sat back. Her understanding of humans was reshaping itself. Old beliefs crumbling like weak stone. Why do you hide this? She asked. If humans are so capable, why not show the galaxy? Because power that is known can be countered. Other species would develop weapons to stop us. They would target guardians for elimination. They would fear us instead of dismissing us. Yuna smiled slightly. Underestimation is our greatest shield. As long as the galaxy thinks we are weak, we remain safe. But I know now. Others who saw the recording will know. Yes. And this concerns us. Yuna's smile faded. Your Highness, what you learned must remain secret, not just for Tejo's sake, but for all humans who serve in positions where they might need to protect others. Valari nodded. I have already given Tejo my word. I will tell no one. Win. Time on X. Win on Tejo. Thank you. There was a knock at the door. Valari called for entry, and Tejo stepped inside. His arm was still bandaged, but he moved without apparent pain. He wore the same, simple, gray uniform as always. His face was calm. His eyes were clear. Your Highness, the transport to your ship is ready. Valari stood. Thank you. She paused. How is your arm? Healing. The doctors say full function will return within 2 weeks. Good. She walked toward him, then stopped. Tejo, I have a question. Yes, Your Highness? When the lights went out and the assassins attacked, were you afraid? Tejo considered the question. No, Your Highness. There was no time for fear. There was only the mission. And if you had died, if they had killed you, then I would have died doing my duty. There are worse ways to end. Valari studied his face. She saw no pride there, no boasting, just simple truth. He had been willing to give his life for hers, without hesitation, without complaint, without expecting gratitude. You are extraordinary, she said quietly. Your species is extraordinary, and the galaxy has no idea. The galaxy sees what it expects to see, Tejo replied. We have learned to use that. Yuna finished her packing and joined them. The three walked together through the station corridors toward the docking bay. Other species moved around them. Tall Torani, massive Drenathi, scaled Velkori, dozens of other forms. None of them looked twice at the small human in the gray uniform. None of them knew what walked among them. At the docking bay, Director Payek waited with final documents. He bowed to Valari. Your Highness, on behalf of the Human Coalition, I thank you for your patience with our protection protocols. I hope Tejo served adequately. Number 4. Imadi. Valari looked at the director. She wanted to laugh. Adequately. This man had no idea what adequacy meant. Tejo served with distinction, she said carefully. I will be recommending that the Human Tyranny Accord be expanded. More humans should serve in protection roles. Director Payek's eyebrows rose. That is unexpected praise, Your Highness. May I ask what prompted this change of opinion? Valari glanced at Tejo. The Guardian's face remained expressionless, but she thought she saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Appreciation, perhaps. Or maybe just amusement. Let us say I learned more about humanity than I expected, Valari replied. They are not what they appear. She boarded her shuttle without looking back, but the lesson remained with her. The quiet man who carried no weapons. The soft human who had killed 12 assassins. The species the galaxy dismissed as weak. They were not weak, they were waiting. 1 month after the treaty signing, Princess Valari returned to Torani Prime. Her homeworld welcomed her as a hero. Parades filled the streets. Her father embraced her before the imperial court. Songs were composed in her honor. She accepted the praise gracefully, but it felt hollow. She knew the truth. She had not saved the peace treaty. A quiet human in a gray uniform had saved it. A man the galaxy would never know or remember. Life returned to normal. Valari resumed her duties as heir to the throne. She attended councils and ceremonies. She studied the art of governance. She prepared for the day she would become Empress. But she was different now, changed by what she had seen. She found herself watching humans more carefully. The servants in the palace, the diplomats who visited the court, the traders who passed through the capital. She saw them with new eyes. The kitchen worker who moved with unusual grace. The ambassador's assistant, whose eyes tracked every person in the room. The merchant, whose hands were calloused in strange patterns. Were they guardians too? Were they hiding strength behind soft faces? She would never know. And that uncertainty taught her something important. Never judge by appearance. Never assume weakness. Never underestimate the quiet ones. 3 months after her return, She received a message through secure channels. It contained only a location and a time. No sender was listed. No signature was provided. She went anyway. The observation deck of the palace tower offered the best view of the stars. Valari arrived at midnight and found Tejo waiting for her. He stood at the railing, looking up at the infinite darkness. He wore civilian clothes now, simple and unremarkable. His arm had healed. No trace of the wound remained. "You came," she said. "You invited me. I invited no one." The message contained no sender. Tejo turned to face her. For the first time, she saw something like a smile on his face. "Your Highness, I have spent my life reading patterns. Your schedule, your habits, your communication methods. It was not difficult to send a message you would recognize as important." As Valari joined him at the railing, "You took a risk. I could have brought guards. You came alone. I knew you would." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the peace treaty was holding. Ships carried trade instead of weapons. Families reunited after years of separation. Children grew up without the fear of war. "Why are you here?" Valari asked finally. "To say goodbye. I have been reassigned. A new posting, far from Torani space. Another princess to protect." Something like that. Valari felt a strange sadness. This man had saved her life. He had changed her understanding of the universe. And now, he would disappear into the galaxy, anonymous and unknown. "I never thanked you properly," she said. "You thanked me sufficiently." "No. I thanked you as a princess thanks a servant. I did not thank you as one person thanks another who saved their life." She turned to face him. "Tejo, you gave me everything. My future. My purpose. The chance to see peace in my lifetime. I can never repay this debt." Tejo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than usual. "Your Highness, I did not save you for payment. I saved you because it was right. Because your life has value. Because the galaxy needs leaders who will choose peace over pride." He met her eyes. "You stayed when you could have run. You faced death to give your people hope. That courage belongs to you, not to me." Valari felt tears threatening to form. She blinked them away. Torani princesses did not cry. "Will I see you again?" she asked. "I do not know. Guardians go where we are needed. The galaxy is large. Our paths may never cross, but they might. They might." Another, almost smile. "If they do, I hope you will still recognize me. I may be wearing different clothes." Valari laughed, surprising herself. "I think I would recognize you anywhere now. You are not easy to forget. Bye. Bye. Incent. Bye. Incent." I had of the four. They stood together as the stars wheeled overhead. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with understanding that needed no words. Finally, Tejo spoke again. "Your Highness, may I ask you something?" "Yes. When you become Empress, how will you treat humans? What will you tell your people about us?" Valari considered the question carefully. She thought of everything she had learned. The truth about human evolution, the secret of the Guardians, the strength hidden behind weakness. "I will tell them nothing," she said finally. "I will keep your secrets, as I promised. But I will treat humans differently than my ancestors did. I will remember that the smallest creature may carry the greatest heart. I will never mistake silence for emptiness or gentleness for weakness. And if your advisors question this, then I will remind them of a lesson I learned on Station Orinth. Appearances lie. Judgments based on appearance are foolish. The wise leader looks deeper." "Ever." Tejo bowed his head. "Thank you, Your Highness. This is more than I hoped. It is less than you deserve." He straightened. "I must go. My transport leaves soon." Valari reached out and touched his shoulder. It was a breach of protocol, a princess touching a commoner. but she did not care. Teho, wherever you go, whatever you face, know that you have a friend in the Torani Empire. If you ever need help, send word. I will answer. Teho looked at her hand on his shoulder. Something shifted in his expression. For a moment, she saw past the calm mask to something warmer beneath. Thank you, Valari. It was the first time he had used her name. He turned and walked toward the stairs. Valari watched him go. Just before he disappeared, he paused and looked back. Your Highness, one more thing. Yes? When I first saw you on Station Orinth, you were angry to be assigned a human guard. You thought I was an insult. I was foolish, perhaps, but you were also right about one thing. What? Teho smiled. A real smile this time, full and warm. I was a gift. The best protection your father could have given you. He knew exactly what he was doing. Then he was gone, disappearing into the shadows as smoothly as he had emerged from them on the day of the attack. Valari stood alone on the observation deck. The stars burned above her, eternal and uncaring. Somewhere among them, a quiet man in simple clothes was traveling toward his next mission, his next life to save, his next secret to keep. She would become Empress someday. She would guide her people through challenges she could not yet imagine. She would make decisions that shaped the future of entire worlds, and always, in the back of her mind, she would remember the lesson of the silent escort. Strength is not always visible. Power is not always loud. The greatest protectors are often those who need no recognition, who seek no glory, who simply do what must be done and then disappear. Humans understood this. They had built their survival upon it. And now, so did she. Valari turned from the railing and walked back toward her chambers. Tomorrow would bring new duties, new challenges, new opportunities. But tonight, she allowed herself to remember. The darkness of the assembly hall, the sound of fabric tearing, the 12 bodies on the floor, and the quiet voice that had asked if she was injured. She smiled. 3 steps behind, she whispered to the empty air. Always. The stars continued their ancient dance above her. The galaxy continued its endless turning. And somewhere in the darkness between worlds, a guardian kept watch. As he always would. As humans always did.